Yo, what's up, guys? All right, cool. So this is I don't know if you could really call this a tutorial, but it is. A lot of you guys ask me sometimes like what I use on my beats, and possibly like how I use Ozone, and just a little bit of mixing, but mostly like how do I, you know, sort of say. I hate when people use the word mastering beats because that's kind of stupid. Um, you should never really squash the shit out of your beats prior to an artist getting on it, because then there leaves no room for, well, there's always room, but I'm just saying it's, you can get a better job if you don't squash the shit out of your beat. You just want to kind of glue it together a little bit. So I figure that's what I talk about today, and how I preferably use Ozone 7, which is a mastering plugin that I love, and I use it very specifically for certain things, and I will show you that right now. Also, if you hear a lot of room noise, it's because I have to use this OBS studio for my PC computer, and so it's a little different, so sorry for the noise. Anyways, so let's see. Let's get into it. So this is a beat, custom beat I'm making for this cool dude, and it's actually finished right now. And the reason why you see it like this, where it's all bounced out, is because I tried to do this last time. I don't know if you guys watched my last video, and there was like a lot of clicks, and it was distorting real bad because the CPU over here was like too much. And that's because I had like a lot of instances of like Omnisphere and Serum, and they're like, especially Serum is like an extremely intensive CPU hog. So I had to bounce out these, the wave stems, so I could bring them back in here, just so I can kind of show you how I use Ozone. And so that's what I'm gonna show you today. So let me play the beat for a second, so you guys can hear what it is, and we'll move forward. Let me turn this up. All right, so yeah, so that's the beat, and yeah, man, I hope you guys dig it. And anyways, so let's get into this. So let's start with the keys. So you can see I just have a parametric EQ on here, and I just kind of rolled off some of the lows, just to clean it up at the bottom. And yeah, like if you watch my last video, that inside the mix, this is another inside the mix. And this is inside the mix how I master. Obviously, you can see by the title. But if you watch my last video, you'll know that I talked about choosing the right sounds, so you don't have to do so much work to it. And not because you want to be lazy, but I'm just saying it's that your mixes come out a lot cleaner just when you choose the right sounds that complement each other. And look, I'm sure there's a lot of other people that have a lot of different ways, and they get a good sound, and that's how they do it, and that's fine. This is just the way I work, and these are just my preferences and opinions. So yeah, so before we're done here, I will pull up the other session, the original session where all these stems came from, and I'll show you, and you won't see much on them. Like the kick is dry, it's just the way the kick is, so I just left it that way. And the 808, I think they used the supercharger VST or a plugin just to get a little more oomph out of it, and I think that's basically it. And then of course I played around with the stereo pans right here. As you could see, some of them are blue, and to the left, if you drag them to the left, it's going to widen up the stereo image for that channel. So that's what I did for some of these, and then and that's it. So once I brought it into here, the thing I wanted to do the most was kind of glue the track together a little bit, and so that's what I did with Ozone here. And so I'm going to play it just a part real quick. I'll play the hook, and I'll turn Ozone off right here, and you could hear how it sounds. What did I do? Hold on, let's see. I should probably unmute everything first. Okay, so here's how the hook sounds just by itself. And then one more time with the Ozone on. Yeah, so you can hear a difference. Obviously it's louder, but I'm going to show you something at the end when I export a full version, like the WAV file. In fact, I think I have it. No, I don't have it here, but I'll export the WAV version with Ozone on it. We'll bring it back in a new session, and I'll show you what the transients and the dynamics look of the track, so you could see that I'm not squashing it. And so anyway, so I put on Ozone. I usually put it on the 10th, effects track here. And there's really, the first thing I really do is EQ. I don't really touch because I do everything that I like inside the mix. So I don't really have to go in here and use it. In fact, I could just take it out. And so the first thing I start with is the dynamics. And what I'll do also is, before I even touch the dynamics, I'll go into the maximizer, and I'll choose which I guess they call this these IRC 1, 2, and 3, and even 4. What do they call these? They're like different. How do I say it? What's the right word? They're different. Like different colors. The processing has like a different color to it. So these are just different colors. It's probably not the right word, but the idea is, that's the idea. So I'll just set the outceiling to 0.1. And then the threshold, I'll kind of just adjust till I see a little bit of a kick down here, and you'll see what I'm saying. That's it. So I just look for these little kick downs right here. If I get enough, reduction, which is just about -3, I'm fine with that. So that's kind of where I put it. And then the character, which is like the attack of the limiter, I guess you could say, is I'll just drop it a little bit. I don't want to drop it super fast because I want the punch to still come through, and that's what I do for that. So anyway, so then I come back to the dynamics, and one thing I listen to is I like to listen where the kick is hitting and where the kick meets the bass. So what I do is I go to the low mid section, and I just solo it, and I'll listen to it. So I don't know if you can hear the kick, but I like to listen to where that clean, like it's like I don't know if you can hear it, but it's like a really tight. It's a really tight, the tightest part of the kick. I like to listen to that where it sounds just like I don't know how to say it. It's like it's just the most perfect sound the way it meets the bass. And so I try to listen for that, and I'll just kind of move the thing around here. I know it's at 136 here, but I'll move it around so you can hear the difference. And this is just me moving the bottom end of this of this band right here. These are bands. So this is a 4-band, compressor or dynamic control. And so I just like to move the bottom in until I could, hear that. Because when the compressor is working, because it's at 2-to-1, and the attack's at 20, that's the way it comes stock. So I just like to leave that alone, and unless I have to touch the attack in the ratio. But I like to leave it alone and then just find the that point that I was talking about, where I like, where the bass and the end of the kick meet, and then I'll just work off that. So let's listen to it. See right here, that's where a lot of punch is coming from. So I don't want to grab that, right? We don't want to compress that too much. And you'll see if I even unmute it, it drastically changes the sound. I don't like that. That's not what I'm looking for. So I just want to move this back to 136, somewhere around. I even go higher so you guys can hear it. So that's sounds pretty good, but it's like I said, still it's a little too high. I want to find where they meet just a little more. Yeah, it's kind of like right around where I first had it. It's like 138, 136, like right there. Yeah, so then what I did is after I found that sweet spot that I liked, then I adjust the compressor right here, the dB. So I pulled it down to -5.4 because I just wanted a little bit of reduction. And one thing, like a key that it's not like this all the time, but a starting place for me is I'll move the compressor down until I see the reduction line meet the top of the signal right here. See how the blue is meeting the red? It's not like this all the time. Like I said, this is just a starting point for me. So I'll do that and then I'll back it off. If I feel like it's taking away too much of the punch, then I'll back it off. And that's what I do. So that's the low mids. That's what I start with first. I don't start with the lows. I start with the low mids first. So that's the very first thing. And and mind you, like I said, the reason why I don't touch the EQ also, or even add an EQ afterwards to cut off like 26 dB of the lows, is because I can let the mastering do that. Once the artist has had it and they record on it, and then they have their track mastered, the mastering can do that. So that's what I'll let them do. So I won't touch that stuff really. Next, I'll move over to the low end here, and I'll kind of just work on it the same way. Let's see, boom. So I'll just throw some reduction down here with the compressor. And remember, there's a lot of kick information here too. So if you have like a wobbly bass and it sounds really loose, don't try to get it in here. Try to go back into the mixer and get it that way. Select that exact channel and get it that way. But you don't want to go in here and do that, because then you might take away a lot of the punch, because a lot of the kick, where the actual punch comes from, is from the kick, not the 808. And so you don't want to take that away too much. So I just do the same thing. I just use a compressor, just use my ears and see what I like. It's all preference. So that sounds pretty good to me. The highs are already kind of loose and open, and I don't want to compress them too much because I don't want to pull them tighter. I like the way they have their own space there and their own dynamics, and they punch out when they need to, and that was all done in the mix. So I don't really have to do that too much. So moving on. So that's what I do as far as the dynamics. The first thing I touch. I mainly just work with the low mids and the lows. And then the next, what I'll do is we already set this, so I'll check this several times to make sure it's what I like. I just go back and forth to the maximizer and just check, and I make sure the maximizer is the last thing in my chain here. And so what I'll do, what I did next was I brought up an imager in here, And I just wanted to make sure this thing's really helpful to kind of keep your overall mix in phase. Usually if it's falling out of these lines, not all the time, especially the lows, if they're falling out of these lines, it's a good chance your beat's going to be out of phase. And or if it's not out of phase, it could cause some phasing issues. So I try to kind of stay in here as much as I can and keep the bass kind of driving up the middle like that. So that's why I took this first band, which is our low band, and I pulled it down. And if we solo it, you can see. So even the that second bass, that boom, it's still in there. You know what I mean? Right. And so we'll check the second one. Like I said, it's okay if it's falling out a little bit. It's fine. It's not going to be perfect. You know what I mean? But if you can see, it still kind of keeps that shape, and we're still kind of up the middle, and we still have a good stereo image as well. So I just I think I dropped this down a little bit, -16. Okay, so that's cool. And yeah, so that's what I do with the low mids, and then the high mids I didn't really touch because I didn't really feel I needed to, because the thing overall is pretty nicely spread out. And like I said, I did that a lot with these stereo things right here. So, moving these up and down, that's what I did with these. These are stereo spreaders here. So, and mono would be completely the other way, where it turns purple and the stereo turns blue to the left. So, yeah, so I already kind of played with the stereo image that way. I just didn't get a chance to do that with the lows. So that's what I did. So the next thing I noticed is, before I had the exciter on, I'll just mute it. And so you can hear the mix without the exciter on, and I'll show you what I use that for. So as I was mixing this, I still felt like the top end was just a little, like it had like a slight blanket on it, and so I just wanted to just lift the high mids like just up just a little bit, just to get a little more clarity in there. But I didn't want to do it too high because the vocals got to sit up there, so you got to think about that too, right? So I didn't want it to be too crazy. So if I turn it on, you can see here I went to the high mids here, just left it in triode, and then I just pulled up the amount to 1.8, and that was fine. It just worked out nice. And that's pretty much it, guys. That's really all I use Ozone for, and that's how I kind of finalize my beat inside of FL Studio. And for me, it seems like it's working out pretty good, and I kind of have like a little routine with it now, so that's about it. And so I hope this video helped some of you guys. I could go more in depth with like each thing. We could talk about dynamics and all that stuff later. I could maybe make another video or a series of videos just on each of these things by itself, but I just wanted to give you a quick run through, on how I use this. So thanks a lot, guys. Or, actually, I promised you one more thing, so we're going to do that. Let me do this. So I'm going to export as a wave, and we'll just call this wave visual, just so I can show you what it looks like. We won't split the mixer tracks. Just give it a second. Sorry about the computer noise. It's actually not that loud. It just I have with OBS, man, I got to turn the gain so high just to get a good volume for the mic, and it it just gets so sensitive up there, so it pulls up everything. So I'm sorry about that. On my Mac, I record everything through ScreenFlow, so it's a lot different. Okay, so that's exported. Let's bring this in here. Let's see, desktop. What did I call it? Wave visual. Okay, so if I bring it in, let's take a look at it. Boom. So you can see there's a lot of dynamics in there. It's like it's not like compressed like that. You know what I mean? And that's like really, really important. So even if I mute this for now, because if I left it on, it'd be too loud. But if I go to the thicker parts with the bass, so this is the bass in it. So that's pretty much it. And then when I bring this in, I usually, when I'm going to record vocals, I'll bring this in, and this again will even come down more. That's where I'll record the vocals at, just like that. And I already know, I can already hear it because I mix vocals, so I know how to, I know what I'm looking for, in the beat for the mix, and what kind of usually has like the best, sound at the end of it. And so this is a volume that I would actually record at. You can do, all kinds of melodies and shit, you know what I mean? So you can do all kinds of stuff. So that's basically it, guys. Hope this helps some of you guys out if you guys were ever wondering how to use Ozone. Hope this helped. And again, I appreciate all you guys watching and the support from most of you guys. So if you dig this video, please share it, give it a like or a thumbs up, and always subscribe to the video. I'll try to, I'm always trying to put out more videos, and I really rely on your comments as far as, what you guys want to see next. So please drop one of those as well. And I'll be back soon. Take it easy. Peace.